Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Madison. My name is Kelly Crocker and I'm one of the ministers here. Today I'm joined by my colleague, the Reverend Kelly Asprooth-Jackson, and the worship team of Linda Warren, Daniel Carnes, and our special musical guest, our very own Brian Rainey. Thank you, Brian. At First Unitarian Society, we question boldly, listen humbly, grow spiritually, act courageously, and love unapologetically. If you're visiting us today, welcome. We're so very glad that you are with us. If you would like more information about our activities and programs, please stop by the welcome table located in the Commons through those doors to your right. It's next to the elevator. We also hope that you'll be able to stay and join us for coffee hour immediately following the service. And for those of you connecting with us virtually today, we are glad that you are with us as well. We hope that you'll be able to take a moment and watch the announcement slides shown again briefly after today's service to find out more about what's happening here at FUS. So we have two announcements to share today. One being that our holiday decorating party is next Saturday, December 9th from 2 to 4 p.m. out in the Commons. We will be decorating our holiday tree. We will be making crafts to decorate the space here and crafts that you can take home. There will be treats and holiday music and opportunities to help those in need in our larger community as well. You can sign up in the Commons after service so we know that you will be with us. And again, that's next Saturday from 2 to 4. And we wanted to remind you that the great name tag project continues. Many thanks to the almost 300 people who've submitted forms for a new name tag. If you haven't yet submitted a form for your new name tag that will include your preferred pronouns, you can do so after service today, right across from these doors outside the library. You will find more information on that table about the use of pronouns and why it matters, and a member of the Welcoming Congregation Renewal Team will be there to speak with you if you've got any questions. But those name tags are being made, so please take a moment and turn in your form today. And now, I invite you to join me in a moment of silence as we center ourselves and bring ourselves fully into this time, joining together once again in community. As people of faith and wonder, we welcome in the delight of mystery, the awe of unfolding adventures, the expansiveness of what it means to behold mystery as a gift to the imagination.
Too often we relax into routines, find comfort in old habits, and give in to the confines of our lives.
In this time of worship together,
may our hearts be nudged open to what may be.
May our spirits be wrapped in curiosity to seek mystery and welcome her in.
May our time together this day remind us to stay open, stay inquisitive of what we do not yet understand, and be inspired to stretch ourselves into new ways of being.
Welcome mystery, welcome into our hearts and into our time of worship together. And we invite you now to rise in all the ways we do and join together in the words of affirmation as we light our chalice. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. And before we join together in our opening hymn, we invite you to take a moment to turn and greet those around you.
Our opening hymn is number 1003. Where do we come from? We're going to sing it through twice together. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? For singing with me. I'd like to invite forward now anyone who would like to come and hear a story today, as I ask for some assistance, if possible, for a handheld microphone. Thank you. Good morning. Isn't it great to have so many people trying to help you out? All right, can you hear me now? Is this any better? There we go. Okay. This is a story about Till Eulenspiegel. So Till lived a long time ago, and he grew up on a farm. He did not have much formal education, but he was very clever. And so he thought after he traveled the world for a while and got into a few adventures and back out again, he thought that if he was going to find a job for himself, it would make a lot of sense for him to work at a university. Because like I said, he was very clever. He was good at coming up with clever answers to silly questions. And he thought it would be a pretty easy job and one that would pay pretty well. This was clearly before the invention of adjunct professorships. It was a different time. And so he went to the university and he applied to become a professor there. And the dean of the university did not like the look of Till Eulenspiegel at all. And he knew that he didn't have any formal education. He was not impressed with the young man, so he thought that he would test him. And he tested him with several questions. We're going to talk about the questions and the answers. So, to begin with,
how many gallons of water are there in the sea? How many gallons of water are there in the sea?
the whole sea. Okay, we have some options. 7,500 is one theory. All water is connected. That actually gets right to Till's answer, because Till's answer, right, so here's Till's answer. I think you're thinking along the same lines. He said, well, I can answer your question. Okay, yeah. But first, we have to, in order to make the count accurate, we're going to have to stop all the rivers and streams, stop it from raining, stop all the water in the world, get it to hold still, and then we can count it all up. See, same idea. A competing authority.
Well, the second question then, if we know that we cannot stop all of the water at once and make it stop raining, so let's try how deep is the sea in its deepest place?
Is it raining or not? What level is the ocean at? Well, here's Till's answer. Till's answer was, it's very, very simple. The sea is exactly 1 stone throws deep. You know how you can tell? Because if you throw a stone, it hits the bottom.
Okay.
Okay.
It's not wrong about throwing in a stone. So where is the center of the earth?
Where is the center of the earth? The core is the center of the earth.
The
yes.
core.
Yes, your hand. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you dig down deep enough, you'll find the core of the earth. Well, Till's answer was this. Till's answer was, the center of the earth just so happens to be right underneath where I am sitting now. And the way that you can test me on that, if you don't believe me, just get a long enough cord, go out to the edge of the earth and measure to the center, and I'll wait.
All right. Let's see what we could do here. How many stars are in the sky?
How many stars are there in the sky?
I think you're proving that these are really hard questions.
I love how ready we are to answer hard questions together as a group. Infinity is a popular answer. So Till's answer was this. The number of stars in the sky is the same number, just by coincidence, as the same number of hairs on your head. And if you want to test me on this, we can make a deal. And you just pluck 1 star out of the sky at a time, and I will pluck 1 hair off of your head, and we'll make sure that they measure up at the end.
That's impossible.
Well.
Right, and I am sure the dean did not want to be bald at the end of this. How far is it from earth to heaven?
Well, why? It's not far at all. Because everything that is heard here on earth is also heard in heaven. And if you want to test me on this, you just go right up to heaven and wait, and I'll whisper, and you can tell me if you hear me or not.
All right, well, how big is heaven? What are its measurements?
Once you get there,
So infinity is, we're coming back to infinity as a popular number today. Till's answer was actually, it was big and round. It was exactly 1,000 miles wide, 1,000 miles tall, 1,000 miles deep. And if you would like to check my math, just clear the sun and the moon and the stars out so we can have a nice clean surface to measure.
All right, the dean has one last question. Let's see if we can trip him up here. How many days have passed since the world began?
How many days? How many days? How many days? Well, 1,000, 1,000,000. Infinity again, another popular choice. So, when we don't know. Till's answer was 7. Right, because every week we count, we start on Sunday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then right back to Sunday again. So it's just been 7 days. Well, do you think that the dean was impressed with these answers? No is the correct answer. Yeah, the dean was not impressed with these answers. The dean did not want to give Till a job, but he thought, all right, fine, I couldn't trip him up. I couldn't trip him up on the oral exam, so I'm going to test his acuity as a teacher, right? He wants to be a university professor. He has to know how to impart knowledge. So the dean said, I want you to teach this donkey how to read. Then, if you can do that, I will make you a professor at my university. And Till thought and said, all right, well, give me some time with the donkey. He said, yes. Ah, maybe it's an unfair question. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, it's just a light. So here's how, you know what he did with the donkey? He took the donkey, he got a book, a large book that would lay flat in front of the donkey, and he put some corn across the pages of the book. And that made the donkey lean over and nibble on the corn, and like right in a line, sort of like looking like he was reading. And when he got to the end of the line, you know what the donkey said? E-A, E-A, E-A. And so Till immediately went and got the dean and showed him and said, look, I've already taught him how to say 2 letters. And tomorrow I will teach him O and U. So this is the story of how Till Eulenspiegel got thrown out of the university. Thank you so much for listening for it. We will now sing you to your classes. And we're going to sing Winds Be Still, which is number 83 in the silver and gray hymnal. Number 83, Winds Be Still. Winds be still, storm clouds pass and silence come, peace grace this time with harmony. Fly, bird of In following the notation of a musical score, every so often the players come to a rest. The voices or the hands on the keys or the strings or the feet on the pedals all stop. It does not mean that the piece is ended. It has not even paused, for the silence is part of the music. For many of us, rest is the hardest demand of living, the most challenging necessity to actually treat as a part of life and not an interruption in it. So, now, to make room for our private thoughts or for the clearing away of thoughts entire, let us spend this moment together, resting in reverent quiet. The Romani people, an historically itinerant culture, have lived throughout Europe for many centuries, especially in the East and South. In English, the Romani are much more commonly referred to as gypsies, but that is not the name that most Romani use for themselves and is generally held to be a term of contempt. So here is one version of a Romani story about how the world began. At first, there was only water and sand down below the bottom of the water. And God, wandering around the water, lonely. He wished he had someone else to keep him company, a brother perhaps. And absent-mindedly, with no particular plan behind it, he reached down into the water and clutched some of the sand in his hand. He clenched so tight that it formed into sort of a stick. He looked at it for a while, and then he tossed it away. And when he tossed the stick, he said his own name out loud because, being alone all the time, he didn't have much reason to talk. And this was something to do. Now, where the stick fell, a gigantic tree grew up all at once, and sitting in the branches of that great tree was the brother that God had wished for, the devil. They were both very pleased to see each other, and they wandered all around the water, talking about what they ought to create there. But they could not seem to agree on anything. So the devil said, "All right, brother, let's not argue anymore. We'll make whatever you want to make. What shall I do to help?" And God explained how the first act of creation had happened. He took some sand, he thought about what he wished was but wasn't, and he said his name. So now, thinking he had the secret, the devil dove down deep to gather some sand, but rather than come up where God was, he came up behind him where God couldn't see. And he raised the sand up over his head, and he cried out, "The devil, I say!" And whatever it was that he wanted, he did not get. But the sand did turn red hot, And the devil let it fall, and it burned him all over, which is why he always looks bright red in all those old paintings that you see. Now God realized the devil was up to no good, and he said, I shall have to teach you a lesson. So he tossed some sand behind the tree, and he said his name, and a great big ox came running out, charging right at the devil. It scooped him up in its horns and carried him away, so fast and so far that the devil cried out, my God, my God. And God watched this and laughed. And somewhere in all of that commotion, the leaves of the tree fell down from the branches, and wherever they landed, they turned into people. Now, a lot of stories about how the world began try to explain how things got to be the way that they are. And there's an element of that to this one, at least in terms of the color most commonly associated with the devil in European artwork. But sometimes the story is more ambiguous. This one leaves us with a fascinating and unanswered question. Which thing was it that made the first humans fall out of the first tree? The devil's cry or God's laugh? The strange ambiguity, this strand of ambiguity, of uncertainty, of mystery in religious thought is often underappreciated, but it is there nonetheless. In another story, this one from the Buddhist tradition, Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, had just attained enlightenment, had just become the Buddha, and as he was walking down the road, the very first person he met was a fellow ascetic and religious seeker named Upaka. Upaka noticed that there was something unusual about Siddhartha and asked who his teacher was these days. Who was he studying with? The Buddha explained that he had attained enlightenment, that he was now no one's student and everyone's teacher. Considering this, so the story goes, Upaka simply said, perhaps it is so, friend, and left Siddhartha behind, choosing a different path. But these and other examples notwithstanding, it is also the case that many of the greatest purveyors of certainty in our uncertain world speak in the name of religion. Certainty is the chief selling point of fundamentalisms of every kind. One narrow and prescribed interpretation of a single religious tradition is said by its proponents to offer an answer to every question and to explain with utter confidence why things happen and what the future holds. I want to be clear when I say that every religion has its fundamentalists. Those who are absolutely confident that their interpretation of the faith is entirely and exclusively right. Fundamentalism is a habit of the human heart, and it exists in you just as it exists in me. The urge to give in to a comfortable narrowness and exclusivity is a habit I struggle to resist at every turn, but it remains with me nonetheless. Now, the common answer to fundamentalism that is offered by the more moderate middle, in almost every case, the larger branch of each human faith, is to make some allowance for subjectivity. Now, let me be clear here again that there are people who identify as fundamentalists, literally use that term for themselves, but who really fall into this moderate camp because they make some space for the differing beliefs of others. A moderate of this stripe may be deeply assured of the rightness of their faith for them, and may work tirelessly to support and promote it and live it out. Their beliefs may be just as prescribed and inflexible as those of their more purely fundamentalist cousins, but they also permit others their own certainty about the rightness of their own faith. And if they may believe that there will come a time when the one true path will be known objectively, they also believe that that day has yet to come. But there is a third choice. Not a course between intolerant fundamentalism and a more moderate subjectivity, but a pathway out beyond either of them. It comes from letting go of the claim to know the truth objectively or subjectively, and instead embracing the not knowing. It is this course that I hear the poet Jalal ad-Din Rumi speaking of when he writes, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I will meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about language, ideas, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense." This is a stance shaped not by strict rigidity or limited flexibility, but by boundless awe. Acknowledging uncertainty allows us to experience wonder and allow it to shape who we are and how we live. Now, uncertainty can be frightening, and we have strong defensive impulses as human beings to block it out and convince ourselves that we have unchanging, immutable answers to the questions that follow us through life. But encountering and accepting uncertainty is the only way in which we can be truly transformed. The wondrous gift of this strangely beautiful universe we inhabit is that such mystery is far from elusive. In fact, it is all around us. Most of us know, I believe, that the physical world is made up of ultra-tiny things. Molecules are arrangements of atoms. Atoms are made out of particles. And these subatomic particles, some arranged into atoms and some not, are the ultra-tiniest things that we know about and are the fundamental stuff out of which our universe is composed. Heisenberg's famous uncertainty principle relates to these particles. Now, my extremely oversimplified summary of it, and for a far better and more comprehensive one, please consult an actual scientific professional. But my oversimplified summary is this: it is impossible to know a particle's position and its momentum with the same degree of certainty at the same time. As a particle's position becomes more certain, its momentum becomes less so, and vice versa. In fact, this inherent uncertainty about position and momentum actually applies not just at the level of incredible smallness, but to everything in the whole universe, no matter how big. It's just that the uncertainty is so slight that we can only really notice it at the subatomic level. So mystery lies at the heart of all existence, literally in every tiny speck of everything that makes all of us up. And so too, mystery lies at the heart of our faith. Now, please make no mistake, Unitarian Universalism is capable of falling prey to both fundamentalism and subjectivism. Our past and our present contain evidence for both. But at its finest, and I believe in its heart, our faith is based in awe, in the shared covenant of our movement, both in its current wording and in the proposed revision, which will be voted on next year. There lists among the chief sources of our tradition direct experiences of transcending mystery and wonder. Bill Schultz, formerly the president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, once said that Unitarian Universalism affirms that creation is too grand, too complex, and mysterious to be captured in a narrow creed. And he continued, at the same time, our convictions about creation lead us to other affirmations. You see, to practice a religion based on awe does not mean to believe in nothing or to give up all hope of determination, purpose, and the will to change the world. Embracing uncertainty, accepting my finitude and the limits of my own understanding actually gives me clarity about the way in which I must live my life. Unitarian Universalist laywoman Janet Hutchinson wrote these words about both the hunger to know and the necessity of accepting sometimes not knowing. Of course, I want the truth, but here's the rub. Truth doesn't sit around still as a rock. It breathes and flows and turns inside out. Ever seen a lion in a cage? He paces and glowers. That must be how God feels locked in our little religions. Look how big the sky is, the deep distance between stars. Little speck, that's you. Laughable speck, that's me. How could we contain the truth, all that overwhelming light? Our truth is just a pinprick in mystery's velvet curtain. Even so, see how we struggle to fix an eyeball to that peep show's tiny window. For my part, when I stare into the starry sky, pore over the words of ancient prophets, or look upon my own children's faces, I cannot help but smile, awed and blessedly uncertain. So I cannot discard any person or treat them as something disposable. I cannot hate those with whom I share the earth. I cannot deny that I am bound together with everyone else by the same perplexing, all-encompassing mystery that surrounds and suffuses my body every moment of my life. I cannot disregard any other being because I cannot afford to give up even one companion on the extraordinary voyage of existence. Any time that a life goes out from the world, a piece of the precious puzzle of life's mystery is lost. How could I ever wish harm on anyone else when I need all the help I can get? But we know, tragically, we know all too well, that the uncertainty of our existence brings pain as well as joy. In the face of suffering, of violence and death, viewed up close, not at a distance, as so much of the world's grief is held from us each day, words fail. The other side of awe ascends, fear and trembling, lamentation for everything that is wrong with the world. Certainly, a planet on which the powerful prey upon the powerless has a great deal that is wrong with it. Just as any world which would allow its children of any race or religion or nationality to be killed by guns or bombs or the lack of food or of clean water or of a safe place to sleep at night. My faith as a Unitarian Universalist offers no easy answer to the cosmic why of events such as these. I cannot appeal, for my part, even to some hidden reason, just out of reach of my own limited understanding. My heart and my stomach cannot abide it. The only thing that makes sense to me from the senselessness of such violence is the clarity with which I know that it ought not to be so. So staggered and struck by the backhand of uncertainty, there is a part of my soul that scrambles for the easy answers and the comforting delusion of a fundamentalism. Any fundamentalism, really. But times such as these are the most important moments in which to resist that fear-born urge. The comedian and multi-talented entertainer Gilda Radner wrote a book about her life and her battle with cancer. And at the end of it, she wrote, "I had wanted to wrap this book up in a neat little package. I wanted a perfect ending. So I sat down to write the book with the ending in place before there even was an ending. Now I've learned the hard way that some poems don't rhyme and some stories don't have a clear beginning, middle, and end." The book was published the same year that she died, a little short of 43 years old. Arbitrary loss is woven into our life here on earth. Even the modest expectations of mortality, not to live forever, but to live into the age of elderhood, even that is far from guaranteed. In her book, Radner described anger and grief at how much her cancer cost her even before it took her life. But she also found, eventually, a way to tell her story that felt true and powerful and, as was always very important to her, funny. Her book and her life ultimately became, as she put it, about not knowing, having to change, taking the moment and making the best of it, without knowing what's going to happen next. The flight from the frightening reality of uncertainty into false confidence and the idolatry of easy answers is not an exclusively religious one. Particularly in the last few centuries, it has been the political sphere in which unflinching dogmatism has been perfected, with special regard to defaming and dehumanizing all unbelievers and apostates. We are suffering as a people from an overabundance of fundamentalism and a massive deficiency of awe. As Unitarian Universalists, we do not have a monopoly on this. Awe, like fundamentalism, is a voice in every faith. But we have a duty, I believe, to help our neighbors and friends reclaim that voice in their own tradition, that our society might be guided by humanizing wonder rather than an intolerant dogma. It is in the nature of the world to be uncertain, as it is also in our apparent nature as human beings to be unpredictable, or at least imperfectly predictable. Perhaps the Romani story that we began with captures it correctly. The question of whether the existence of human beings is best explained by the devil's cry or God's laugh hangs perpetually in the air around us. Again, there is much to fear in the uncertain, but there is also always the possibility that perhaps the next unforeseen happening will be for the better. In this uncertain world, the best preparation is to be prepared for awe.
Thank you. And we invite you now into this time of giving and receiving, where we give freely and generously to this offering, which sustains and strengthens our community here, as well as the work of our outreach offering recipient, who this week is Urban Triage, Inc. Urban Triage is a Black-led organization that was founded and rooted in the idea of for the people, by the people. They work to empower Black families and children by developing, managing, life-changing programming, and mobilizing community resources to distribute them to those most in need. There's multiple ways to share your gifts. Baskets are being passed here in the room. You'll also see on the screen you can donate directly from our website, and the text to give information is there as well. We thank you for your generosity and your faith in this life we create together. We gather each week, bringing with us the joys, the losses, the celebrations, and the sorrows of our days. We share them here, knowing they are held in love and support. Roz Woodward asks us to light a candle of remembrance for the life of John Woodward, her brother-in-law, who died last Tuesday after suffering dementia for many years. We're thinking of his wife and caregiver, Anne, and their family. And we light a candle of remembrance for the life of Scott Chabot on the anniversary of his death. We send our love to his wife and his family, knowing they are missing him. And we light a candle of ongoing lament for the violence which plagues our world, for the tragic loss of human life and those lives imperiled or diminished by armed conflict and the grinding of armored nation against civilian bodies. We grieve with particular attention to the suffering of innocents in Ukraine, Armenia, Gaza, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Together, we yearn for a world in which all people have the right and the means to live and live free. And we light a candle for all the joys and sorrows, the hopes and the dreams that remain unspoken in the silence of our hearts. If you'll join us now in a moment of prayer and meditation with these words from Rebecca Savage. Spirit of life, eternal mystery, receive the meditations of our hearts this day. We come to this space with the challenges and sorrows of our lives ringing our thoughts. All that we have left undone, our relationships that may be frayed or fraught, the pressures of life, work, and home hunching our spirits and bringing us down. Things, people, places that are breaking our hearts. Beyond these walls, there is so much that is outside of our control. Let us leave it there for a moment. Beloved mystery, hold us close and whisper into our hearts that another world is possible, one beyond our imagination that we are building together. One prayer at a time, one hopeful declaration at a time. One act of forgiveness and grace at a time, one extension of care and compassion at a time. We give over all of our actions to you, sweet mystery, for we know not the impacts of our faithful practices, nor do we invest ourselves in them. May we embrace today the wisdom that love is enough, care is enough, patience and service are enough. The rest is mystery, and may that be enough. Amen, and blessed be.
There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we are. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. Our closing hymn is number 89 in the silver and gray hymnal, Come My Way, My Truth, My Life. Number 89. Please rise in body and or spirit. Come my way, my truth, my life, such a way as gives us breath, such a truth as ends all strife, such a life as killeth death. Come my light, my feast, my strength, such a light as shows a feast, such a feast always makes a guest. Come, my joy, my love, my heart, such a joy as none can move, such a love as none can part, such a heart as joys in love.
How does one address a mystery? Cautiously, reverently, hopefully, quietly. Simply be in the intimate presence of mystery, unashamed, unadorned, unafraid, and at the end say, Amen. Blessed be, go in peace, and please be seated for the postlude.